Hello gamers and welcome to another exciting edition of Game Warp. I'm Elwood.
I'm Kim.
And today we are going to be talking about the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit. Captain Spirit is the prequel of sorts to the forthcoming Life is Strange 2 from Don't Nod Entertainment, who were the original developers of Life is Strange, a favourite of, it's safe to say, both myself and Kim. Now, the game itself was first shown to us at this year's E3, and of course, being fans of Life is Strange, we're obviously very keen to see how this one ties into the Life is Strange universe, because here we have a game which is very different from what we've seen of this world so far. In particular, you, in this 2-hour adventure, you play Chris Erickson, who is a young boy. He's living with an alcoholic father, and he sort of survives this world by escaping into his superhero fantasies, where he becomes his superhero alter ego known as Captain Spirit. Now, over the course of this game, you basically get to explore his house, put together your superhero costume, and engage in some general superhero activities, and at the same time dealing with interactions with his father. This is certainly a very sort of deliberate change of pace, don't identify from what we've seen before. This is not sort of light-hearted gaming anymore. It means it's actually probably one of the darkest titles that we've seen in a long time. But I mean, Kim, obviously going into this game, how did you find this sort of prequel to what's going to be leading into Life is Strange 2?
Well, I mean, I don't really know if we should call it a prequel, mostly because it's just kind of like an idea as to what we're going to see. But I don't know, maybe this is kind of like, because I mean, at the end of this, we figure out that, you know, what happens to the mom, because obviously we only see the dad and Chris. But I mean, like, if we were just looking at this game by itself, the story and everything and the pacing is all very different, I guess, from Life is Strange, and even from what it was promoted. Like, we had a really good idea from the trailer that, you know, he's not happy with the life that he's having right now, because obviously his dad is alcoholic, and we see hints of abuse as well. He kind of loses control a little. I don't know if those go hand in hand. I'm not sure. I've never experienced anything like it, so I've lived a good life. Not so much for, you know, obviously it's really nice to see that a young boy, he's like 9 years old, and he's able to fall into this world. And I think that was what captured both me and you when we saw the trailer, is that young boy being able to escape into his fantasies, and his imagination really takes him on a trip. And as we start going through these missions, it's really nice to, and he does call them missions because they're little things that he needs to achieve.
Yeah.
It kind of like fleshes out a little bit more, where you really, sometimes you see it's just like he's making up the dialogue and doing all the voices and all that stuff. And then there's other times where like he walks into a place and it transforms into the world that he sees in his head, where he's defeating these supervillains, which are like minions of this great supervillain called Mantroid. Obviously all these things come together at the end of the story, and we really get to see, like, you know, through all these missions we kind of piece together hit the problems in his house as well.
Yeah, I mean, right from the start, I mean, this is actually such a dark title, and it was not something I was expecting at all. Certainly when we looked at the trailer at E3, this looked like, oh, it's going to be you play this young boy and he escapes into superhero fantasies. But right from the start, we've got this young boy, and he's got a very innocent world outlook, and at the same time he's having to deal with very adult situations in his life. We're obviously introduced straight off to his dad, who's drinking at the breakfast table by making him like a pretty naff breakfast of just eggs, and before going off to like drink and watch his basketball game. And the two characters, they're very much dealing with the emotional strife of the fallout of the death of Chris's mother. And I'm just going to warn ahead, there will be some spoilers ahead. We will try to avoid anything major here, but certainly as you explore the house, and part of, depending on how you're playing it, I know certainly for myself, I'm playing it and you're like trying to play the good son, you're trying to support your dad, so you're making him like mac and cheese, you're putting on the washing and you're clearing away beer cans, and you're trying to have some sort of relationship with your father, and at the same time you're looking at these memories of his mother, like the cartoon she drew, listening to records she had, and you get like little snippets of what happened to her, and certainly Chris's dad's life previous, because we obviously find out that he was a basketball star who's hit upon hard times and has now as a result hit the bottle. At the same time, there is all these sort of grey areas we don't get to find out. It's like, why has Chris got these bruises on his arm? Has Chris always had an abusive relationship with his father, or is it as a result of this fallout of the death of his father's wife, his mother? And there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered here, and you can understand in many ways why he does choose to escape in this superhero fantasy. And then there is a real sort of charm when we get into superhero elements of the game, such as here, do tasks, and you have the option to do it in a superhero way, and here, raise his hand and make little wah noises. And I have to say, I've never had the gamepad vibrate as hard as it does when he does his superhero tactics. I really thought someone was going to bust out here, but it's such a shift in tones from like lighthearted moments of fantasy to just like real dark moments of abuse, and it's certainly something that I haven't seen in a long time. I mean, it certainly brought back like memories of Edith Finch, What Remains of Edith Finch, just in that sort of dark tone. But even that game didn't go as dark as this one does, which is all the more surprising because you think you know what sort of game it is going into it from what we've seen previous.
Like, Life is Strange was a pretty dark title as it is. I mean, obviously we had discussed this before when we were talking about Before the Storm, that it gets dark material but never hitting that darkness that Life is Strange touches on because of the murder mystery and all that stuff going on. This one kind of turns the tables around a little and turns it into more of like a personal experience. And I think what makes it really dark is that their center character is a child. And while he is going through all these things, you know, all these missions, and you think he's in his this imagination, this imaginary world that he's in, what kind of adds to this kind of like bliss, this kind of ignorance is bliss sort of concept for him, is that even though he's in these fantasy worlds, you can see that there is a much darker psychological trauma that he's going through on his own, because, you know, like, you know, we'll go through certain like the Maze of Doom or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. You go through the maze, and then at the end, the treasure is pictures of his mother, like memories of his mother.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of like after this sort of dark moment of like, after this kind of like lighthearted imaginary thing where you crawl through these tunnels and in the dark, and it's much longer than you expect because you keep turning and you don't know which side you're turning, and then it's just kind of like you get to the end of it, and then what it is for him, you can see like the innocence of his heart is that his treasure is these memories that he has. And at the same time, you know, he has like obviously lighthearted moments where he walked into like the I don't know what room it was. It was really dark, and then he went in and he had to shut off like he had to turn on the water heater or something like that. And it was just like, to him, the room was just like a swamp of darkness, and there was just this monster bubbling up. And like, I find different contrasts of just seeing different moments like this is really like, you know, it's really brings out the charm of the story they're trying to tell. I do think that the game mechanics themselves, while I like the superhero thing, I think that it's a little bit of a fetch quest. It works because it's such a short experience and there's such a strong story behind it. But like, if they were to structure, say, Life is Strange 2 in this sort of way, then it's going to be like a grueling experience to go through.
Oh yeah, I think the fetch quests were always a problem with the Life is Strange series, more so with Before the Storm, which features such riveting moments as set the table, and thankfully, while there is obviously the element of the fetch quest, like when you're constructing your superhero outfit, you feel that you got a lot more control over it this time, such as you can choose a mask or you can choose a helmet. Frustratingly, you're bound to those decisions, so there's no like change your mind. If you choose helmet, then that's what you get, and you're not going to get the chance to see what the mask looks like. Which was a little frustrating, especially when we look at Before the Storm, where we could change outfits, and if we didn't like the outfit, we could always change it back. So to be sort of tied to this one outfit that you're going to essentially wear for the whole of the game was a little frustrating. But certainly when we look at the fetch quest elements here, and again, it comes back to the constructing your superhero outfit, there was a real sort of sense of purpose to it. It wasn't sort of pointless busy work. Much like most of the objectives that you're tasked with, they're all sort of add to the experience for the most part, and even sort of little distractions such as like lighting the fire or playing with the toys, such as like, is it Master Bear? It's in the bedroom. There's like a scorpion car you can choose to run over pedestrians with. There's UT, these little toys that make up his little superhero squad, and in particular there's a little battle you can play out between Power Bear and Noctarius, which is like a insect type action figure, and it's quite engaging to script out this little story between these two characters, and I thought it would lead on to something more, but apparently it didn't. But it was a fun distraction, and it certainly helped break up some of the moments of the game.
Yeah, I think that's what gives it a genuine feeling for this story. Like it's a believable story. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that, like Life is Strange or Before the Storm, it's improbable, but there always seems to be some sort of like element which is kind of like, I'm not saying like, having a serial killer or some crazy dude out there is it's not probable. Of course it exists. But I'm saying, like, this experience is so much more personal. And when you have these moments, it kind of, like, I think that probably if anybody who's suffered some kind of, like, trauma as a child, you've gone through that sort of world where you find other distractions to kind of occupy yourself. And that's what makes Chris such a great character that they've crafted together, because everybody has these moments, whether it's creating some sort of superhero costume or some other distraction like reading or whatever. It's still a way for you to get out of that world, and I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a really genuine experience, despite the little flaws that there is. I think the better idea I like about this is that we now can see all the possibilities that this universe, this Life is Strange universe has created.
Yeah.
And you can see like the longevity of this series if they keep making like good games out of it and make good stories and craft these great characters. You can see that this can be kind of like Life is Strange can turn into like this anthology series, where the stories don't have to link together, but like it's just little stories in this little town and in this little world that they have. I mean, Before the Storm kind of expanded the turf. It wasn't only in Blackwell already, right? Was it Blackwell? Arcadia Bay.
Yeah.
Arcadia Bay. It wasn't only in Arcadia Bay, but now you kind of see like little tidbits in this one where it kind of links back to the places we saw. We saw Blackwell Academy and all that sort of thing in the notes and all that. And I really like the idea. I think I really like. I have high hopes for Life is Strange 2. I don't know what to expect, but I mean, it's only a few months away, so we're pretty much right around the corner, and I have a feeling that that's one of the games that I'm thinking of like saving up and buying the day of.
Yeah, I mean, definitely so. I mean, certainly what we know already in terms of the game, we know that it's going to be a completely new cast of characters. A little disappointing because I would have obviously liked to see where Chloe and Max's relationship goes, especially as...
Yeah, but they left town, so...
I know they left town, but it doesn't mean we can't still follow them another venture. It's... The fact is that we spend so much time investing in this relationship, and if you play the game like it seems everyone else did and got the supposed bad ending where you destroy Arcadia Bay to save Chloe, rather than doing what Donut want you to do and kill her off, then it leaves open this whole landscape of where to go. And obviously now we're obviously in Beaver Creek, and I have to obviously say I'm really hoping that the setting is a little lighter, because I don't think I can sit for another 4 chapters of home abuse and drunken father, and it's sort of like, it just feels like very overplayed. It's like, why does it always have to be like white middle America, the drunken dad, the shitty home life? Why can he just not like have the nice middle class family and still have a shitty home life? It just seems like it's playing on too many familiar tropes. And yes, it is doing it well, and the father-son relationship is good. I mean, it brought to mind for myself a lot of aspects of Terry Gillingham's Tideland. The fact that you've got this father who's got an addiction, yet he shares a bond with his child through his addiction. So Chris is in many ways enabling his father's drinking, because he's not questioning it. He never says, perhaps you shouldn't drink 6 beers at the breakfast table, Dad. Maybe.
But then he's also, at the same time, we also see that he doesn't he seems incredibly loyal to his dad. And I mean, I understand it's like a child thing, like your parent is your parent. You're not going to be able to change that. And because in one of the pieces of notes, you get that the grandparents offer to take him under his care. And then he has like this dialogue that says like, oh, well, I don't, grandma and grandpa are really nice, but I would never leave dad, sort of thing. And it's one of those moments where you question, you're like, well, you have all these pieces that you've already pieced together from the story. Well, what makes him so loyal to his father after all this? Like, he's able to escape into this world, but at the end of this, at the end of the story, you wonder if he still feels the same, because while he tries to ignore the abusive things that even his dad says, like the way he words things sometimes, and like just is kind of, he gets rougher and rougher as he gets more drunk. Like he you start seeing like at the end, he just kind of like tells off his dad, like, I know what you're thinking, I know that you mean these bad things, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, it's certainly not the sort of gaming experience you expect. It's not like, I'm going to sit down and do myself some gaming, and I'm going to live through this drunken father plotline, because this is how I spend my time, man.
I tell you, like, this game, like, I mean, I didn't, like, as much as I think the pacing a problem because of all the fetch quests and all the things you have to do, it really builds, though. It really, like, builds on your emotions as you piece the story together. So by the time that ending scene came, I have to say, I was, like, pretty misty. Like, I was about to cry at the end. It was really...
Yeah. It's an emotional gut punch that it hits you with at the end. And I don't know whether... There's so many aspects that throughout the story, if you... Again, this is all down to personal preference. I mean, you have the option to shoot your dad in the head with a gun. Not like a real gun.
I didn't do it. I was like, this guy's gonna flip out at me.
That's the thing. I thought, if I shoot him, he's just gonna like flip the table, and he's just gonna like, it's gonna get a whole lot darker real quick. And even when you have like the neighbor who comes round, and it's sort of like you're there saying, oh yeah, everything's fine and stuff, and he still flips out at me. So God knows what happens if I told her the truth. It's weird. You're very much in this mindset where you are defending this father character just because of the occasional moments of tenderness that he shows Chris. For some reason, you feel compelled to defend this character, even though you know he's not providing a stable sort of home life for him. He's just...
I just wonder if like this story, because the devs, like Don't Nod Entertainment, kept saying that, Spirit is really like not related. It's a separate story from Life is Strange 2. You will see like overlapping characters. So a lot of it's got me thinking. I start thinking, because there are some moments that actually feel like they kind of link together, that they might link to something more, especially like this mysterious phone call if you call the neighbor. But it's just like, you wonder if there's something a little bit more, and I feel like it has something to do with Life is Strange 2. Either way, I mean, it's all speculation at this point, but I have a feeling like if anybody's going to be overlapping, you'd probably see the neighbor, or because that's the only other person that we have, or maybe we'll get like some headline about like the mom dying or something. or what happens to Chris, because at the end we kind of are left in this kind of like cliffhanger.
It's certainly a unique title. I think it's sort of a highlight really of where gaming has gone now. When we have this, and we certainly look at like titles like Everybody's Gone to Rapture and Gone Home and Firewatch, and you can see these games that are now being driven so much by story. And I'm not talking like the Telltale games, and talking, as I said, these like walking simulators and games like Life is Strange, where it's not about action, it's not about big set pieces, it is about telling these very emotional and character driven stories that aren't relying on big action set pieces, that are just able to take delight in you following a character and being immersed in their world. And certainly this game does that for the short time that you're within this world. It's very sort of immersive, and it crafts these two characters through both their actions and the things you discover so perfectly. I mean, it can just be, we've always said that with Life is Strange, some of the best moments have just been like the simple moments, such as when we had like Chloe and Max walking along the train tracks in Life is Strange. And certainly in this one, it's where you go into the father's bedroom and you put on the record and you just sit there and you listen to a record play as it sort of looks around the room. Or when you're up in the treehouse and you're just looking out over his little area that he lives, and it's like the Suffragan Stevens track that's sort of playing. There's just something about these moments, these simple little moments, that really make this such a unique experience. But yeah, I just as I said before, I just really don't think I can deal with this sort of emotional onslaught for the game. I'm just hoping for something a little lighter.
Yeah, like home abuse and child abuse might not be the way to go. I don't know if I can actually do it. But I mean, I think they're going to stray away from it, because it's less of a, you can't really drag a game out with that sort of story. And with kind of like what Life is Strange has offered, I think that there's going to be something a little bit like darker, but in a, I don't know, like maybe a more sinister way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I don't know.
All right. Okay, so just going to put a mark in here and just say major spoiler alert here. Now, when we get to the finale and Chris falls out of his treehouse and he hovers, so he's actually demonstrating that he has got actual powers, and we've obviously seen in the original game that Max had the power to rewind time. Are we thinking that going into Life is Strange 2, we're going to see the awakening of powers in everyday people, that we're going to see more people demonstrating extraordinary powers? We've obviously seen time travel. Here we've seen the power to control, I'm guessing, elements. So in this particular gravity, he's able to hover at the end. And it's played very subtly, so you can kind of miss it. So as we go into Life is Strange 2, are we going to start seeing more people with sort of like base level powers sort of finding their powers awakening, and we're going to end up with following a different character as they're using their now awakened power in this sort of world? And that as these games go on, we're going to eventually see these people come together. We're going to see Max come in, and we're going to see Chris come in, and I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know. But do you reckon that superpowers are going to be the way to go?
I was like, wow, are we assembling the everyday life people's kind of superheroes?
I'm just saying, we've got the origin story of Captain Spirit here. We've obviously seen the origin of Max, who has no superhero name because she's just Max. So I mean, is this what it's going to be? I mean, are we just going to see? Is it going to be like Heroes, and we're just going to see everyday people who just suddenly discover they've got remarkable powers? Are we going to have to save the cheerleader all over again? That's just my fan theory. I'm going to be so stoked when it turns out I'm right. So
I have a feeling you might be right. I think that's a possibility, because I never thought about it. I actually thought that was just his imagination. So it could be possible that he did, like in times of desperate need, he found the ability in him to have that break out. That's what usually happens with
Yeah.
superheroes, right? When they're in dire situations, their powers ignite.
Yeah, it's emotional distress is supposed to trigger. If we're following the X-Men rule, it triggers your ability, or your mutation, or whatever. So, but at the same time, it hints. It's like Chris will be appearing in Life is Strange 2, and it's like, how's this child gonna tie it into the story we're gonna tell in Life is Strange 2?
Does
we
he
don't.
say that?
He does.
Okay.
He says he will appear. So.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, this is why I kind of wish I had some idea of what sort of character I'm going to follow, because how this Captain Spirit character is going to work into the Life is Strange 2 story, I'm really not too sure.
I mean, like I said, it's coming up, so we'll be able to answer all of our speculations and fan theories and all sorts of things when the time comes. So, what would you rate the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit?
Oh, this is such a difficult one, because at the same, I'm going to give it 1 rating, but at the same time, I don't see myself really returning to it anytime soon. But for the experience, I say this is a 4 out of 5 for myself. It was such an emotional ride for a 2-hour experience. But at the same time, I don't see myself really sort of returning to it, apart from maybe to do those missing quests and stuff. But yeah, this is a full developed experience. It's beautifully designed, and the world it's set in is completely immersive, and you really feel that you come away having experienced the life of Chris in this. So it's a 4 out of 5 rating for myself.
Yeah, no, I'm right along with you. I think that's where it loses the point, is that the replayability isn't quite there, but I don't think it's ever meant for that. It is a free game, so I think the only thing you would go back to do to replay it would be like, oh, I'm gonna try and hunt down the helmet now instead of the mask, which was what I did, and you did the opposite thing. Yeah. So, like, that would be, it's not meant to be going back, but I do think 4 out of 5, just because there were some slower moments, especially when you were, like, blindly looking for objects and not sure where it was. Yeah, some things were a little more far-fetched than others. So either way, it's a good experience. It was a nice, I haven't had a game that made me really, really touched me and tugged at my heartstrings, as you would call it. So, not that I really like that all the time. I kind of avoid games that tend to do that to me. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for both of us. A solid experience, especially because it's also a free experience. So you can check it out on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam right now for free if you're interested, and if you skip through the spoilers, of course. So this wraps up this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. You can head over to our home base, thatmomentin.com, to read gaming reviews. You can see updated gaming news every single day on our Twitter and our Facebook at Game Warp Podcast. Also, you can check out our gaming obsessions and gaming snacks and such on Instagram, instagram.com/GameWarpPodcast. And I think we're starting to gear back into the streaming eventually, and you can get all the updates on that and watch us on Twitch, where we stream at twitch.tv/GameWarpPodcast. Till next time, bye!